Okay, welcome back to Starlight Studio, and this is class number 12 in the Photoshop for Beginner series. And in this class we'll be focusing on the layers panel. Now, how to use and the layers panels, what functions actually come with the layers panel, and what benefits that we have with the layers panel. So without further ado, let's get straight into Photoshop. Okay, so let's open up our Photoshop by clicking on the Photoshop icon, and you should see your interface or your workspace in front of you. Okay, as you can see, I've just got a blank white filled canvas. The layers panels is located to the right side of your workspace. Okay, here, this is your layers panel, and this is where all the layers will be visible to you guys. Okay, remember the tools are to the left. So here's all my tools to the left side of my workspace, and my layers panel will be on my right side of my workspace. Okay, as a default, any image, file or document that you open up within Photoshop, it'll be labeled as a background and it will be locked. Okay, now I've got an image of my car which I actually uploaded into my Photoshop, and I took this image yesterday and I've just imported it into my Photoshop, and as you can see, the default name it was given was background and it was locked. Okay, so regardless of what type of image you open up within Photoshop, it will be labeled as background and it will be locked. Okay, so let's quickly move back into our canvas. Okay, the lock restricts you from certain attributes. Okay, for example, I'm currently in my move tool, and if I try to move this document or this file, it will give me an error message. Let's quickly read what the error message is. The currently selected layer is a background layer. You cannot move a background layer or change its stacking order, blending mode or opacity. However, you can convert it to a normal layer and then change any of these attributes. Okay, so how do we go about converting it to a normal layer? Very easily. In your panels, you have a lock next to that layer. Okay, now if you see, currently it's locked and all these attributes are off limits. If I take my mouse on top of the lock and left click once, look what happens. Firstly, it will change the name to layer 0, the lock disappears, and these attributes are available to me for this layer. Okay, so hopefully locking and unlocking a layer is a straightforward process for you guys. Now, how do we create a layer? Say we would like to create a blank layer. Very simple. Within your layers panel, go right to the bottom. You see this icon here. If you hover your mouse over it, it should say create a new layer. By left clicking, it will generate a new blank or a transparent layer for us. So if I was to turn this off, there you go. So now that we've discovered how to create a layer, how do we delete a layer? Make sure that particular layer is highlighted, and we can very easily go to this tool here, this icon here, where it says delete layer. Once we're over it, on top of the icon, left click and it will delete the layer that was highlighted. Okay, this is how we create a layer. Okay, just keep in mind some of the tools that we will use, they automatically generate layers. For example, let me go to my shape tool, and if I right click and I choose rectangle tool, go anywhere on my canvas, left click down and drag my mouse to a certain size, say for example about 800, And if I release my left click now, it will generate a shape for me with a color that I predetermined, which was here, green. Okay, you can change these colors by double clicking on this, and it should give you a color picker, and then you can say, for example, I wanted this color and so forth. Okay, so let me just cancel that. Now, as you saw, as I created that shape, it created a shape layer for me. Okay, this was done automatically. I didn't have to create and then create a layer and then make that shape. It created a layer for me. Now let me go into my text tool, which is here. If I left click, I've selected my text tool, and if I go here, let me type something in. I've typed Stylex Studio in, and I want to confirm what I've typed. And after actually picking my font type, font weight, font size, and the color of the font, if I'm happy with it, I can left click on this tick here to confirm my action, and it will generate. As you saw, as soon as I clicked on my type tool and I started typing on my canvas, it generated a text layer. Okay, now keep in mind there are many different types of layers. There are obviously the text layers, there are shape layers, there's paint layers, there's image layers, there's adjustment layers. There are many different types of layers, and we will work through these as we go throughout this series, okay, and into the intermediate and the advanced classes. Okay, now that we have one image which is visible to us on our workspace, but however, this is based on 3 different layers. We have a text layer, we have a rectangle layer, and we have a background layer. Let me just quickly label these for us for the purpose of this tutorial. So this was shape layer, this was our background layer, and obviously we know this is a text layer because we have the letter T next to it. Okay, let's create a new layer. Okay, we can create new layers by going on to this icon here, like we've said earlier on, and left clicking, and it will generate a new layer for us. Okay, just keep in mind, if my shape layer was selected or highlighted and I click on the create new layer, it will create a layer above my shape layer. Okay, so make sure that you have the layer selected where you would like to create a layer above it or below it. Okay, just keep your stacking order in mind. So currently I want it above my text layer, so I'd make sure my text layer is selected, and I will go hit the new layer icon, and it should generate a new blank layer for me. It's blank, and I will show you what I mean. Now the only visible layer is my layer 1. As you can see, it's checkered, which is blank and transparent, nothing on it. Make sure your layer 1 is selected, and I will use my brush tool, and I will go here. Let me just change the color of the brush to red. I like this red. So, and let's go about here. As you can see, on layer 1 we've created a brush stroke. Okay, now let me actually label this as well as paint layer. For the purpose of this tutorial, it'll make our life a lot easier. Okay, now we have 4 layers combined to make one image. This is the image that we see, and we have 4 layers: a paint layer, a text layer, a shape layer, and a background layer. Okay, now let's move on to the stacking order of layers. They work from top to bottom. This would be the top layer in the hierarchy, and this would be a bottom layer. Okay, so this is my top layer, this is my second layer, my third layer, and my fourth layer. So anything below the paint layer is below it. Okay, the most visible layer would be your top layer. For example, my paint layer is at the top. Now if I was to pick my move tool and go into my paint layer and then reposition my paint layer on top of my text, look what happens. The text which is beneath the paint stroke is now not visible because the top layer is my paint layer. However, if I change the stacking order, which can be done very easily by highlighting that layer, make sure that layer is highlighted, left click down and dragging that above the layer that you require, releasing the left click. Now my text layer is my topmost layer. Okay, so that is the most visible layer to me, and the paint layer is actually behind my text layer. For example, we have a shape layer. Now let me bring the shape layer into this into action as well now, and let me place it here. Now if you look carefully in the stacking order, my text layer is my topmost layer, then it's my paint layer, and then it's my shape layer from here, and then it's my background layer. Now let's carefully examine this image. So the text is completely visible. Why? It's the topmost layer. Then behind the text layer is my paint layer. So that's the next most visible layer to me. The third layer is the shape layer. Now wherever the paint layer is, the shape layer is hidden, okay, behind that layer. And then obviously the background is hidden behind everything apart from this free space here. Okay, now if I was to change the stacking order of my layers, and I'd like to bring my shape layer as my top layer, what do you think will happen? So left click down, move right to the top, and that's right, you've guessed it. The shape layer is my topmost layer, and what's beneath that layer is hidden now. Okay, so hopefully you've understood the concept of layers, the basic concept of layers. Hopefully you've learned something from this tutorial. If you have, hit that subscribe button. Okay, like, share and comment in the comments below. As always, remember to go away and do your practice runs, because you know practice makes perfect. As always, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in the next class. Adios amigos.